Welcome to Conversations with Déja, a three-part series exploring the many dimensions of breast cancer. I'm Déja Grant, Miss Capital City 2025, and your host for this impactful journey. Throughout this series, we'll hear inspiring conversations from a breast cancer survivor, a leading scientist exploring the evolution of this disease, and a compassionate physician who treats those affected. Conversations with Deja is committed to delivering insightful, empowering content and is proudly sponsored by the Pink Ribbon Mission, caring and joining me for today's episode is Dr. Melinda Butler Henderson, someone who holds a very special place in my life. I've known Miss Melinda for over 20 years, nearly my entire life. We first met as neighbors and we grew into close family friends. She has been a guiding influence and a constant source of inspiration, and I'm truly honored to share this conversation with her today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is truly an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this journey with you.
Thank you for your willingness to join Conversations with Deja. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Melinda Butler Henderson. I am a 17-year breast cancer survivor, and that just sounds so so interesting now that it's been that long. But I'm an occupational therapist. I have worked in the service industry for the past 20 plus years. Prior to that, I was a cosmetologist, so huge career change there. But I really love helping and providing service to others. That's really where I shine. And I feel like that's where I've been led throughout my life. And I've worked in a skilled nursing facility setting for the last 18 years, but just recently changed professions. And I'm now the chief development officer for a rehabilitation company. My primary responsibilities are developing programming and also business development.
I love that. I love that so much. So, I remember being so young when you first heard about your breast cancer diagnosis. Congratulations on nearly 17 years of being cancer free. Could you share with us how you first received this diagnosis and what that meant to you?
Sure. So, first of all, thank you. Yes, I remember you were very young. I too was very young, especially relatively speaking, because we tend to think of breast cancer as something that affects women who are a little bit older. But I was actually 34 when I felt that something wasn't quite right. And I remember the day like it was yesterday. I was out jogging with a friend. We were running around a track at a school and outside of a school. And I just felt a heaviness on the right side. So there was this disproportionate heaviness. I never did a typical breast exam and felt a lump. It was actually just the heaviness. And so there's so many different ways that these types of things can manifest. And that's why it's really important to know your body. That's the main key, is to know your body. And so that heaviness gave me a little concern, and I did tell my gynecologist during my next visit, and he said, "Oh, well, that's he examined me and said that feels like a fluid-filled cyst." He said, "So we'll just make an appointment with radiology and they will just aspirate that, which means to drain it." And so then I didn't think anything more of it, and it took me a while to do that because I really wasn't concerned. And it from the time that I originally felt that different sensation in my breast to the time that I actually was diagnosed, 8 months had passed. And that's quite a long time, and could mean the difference between life or death. So early detection is key. Obviously, I was very fortunate that things worked out the way they did, but that was the original diagnosis. And as or the way I came to that diagnosis, when I went to radiology, they looked at me and knew right away. They said, "How long have you had this?" And we did the mammogram, and then they also did an ultrasound and a biopsy. And then they had me come back in 3 days later, where they actually gave me the confirmed diagnosis. They never said the word cancer, but what they said was, "We did find some pathology. The pathology report was positive." They didn't say the word cancer, but in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, I have breast cancer, you know.
Yeah, so it all
Um,
started out with a jog.
it all started with a jog. Yes, it did.
That's a really, I don't know if I knew that part, but that's a really interesting way to kind of figure out that your body is telling you something different.
Exactly, exactly.
Miss Melinda, would you walk us through your treatment journey and share a bit about your post-treatment care and how that was managed?
Absolutely. The treatment journey began really quickly for me. My breast cancer was stage 3B, and it was amazing. The medical team was just amazing because they always presented a glass half full approach, and that was helpful for me. Because I felt like, oh, this is like late detection. And they said, no, it's still early detection because it has not spread beyond the lymph node. I did have one positive lymph node. So therefore, I had to have all the lymph nodes removed. And then they asked me some questions about my family history, and I did report that I had family members who also had breast cancer, one being my mother's mother, my maternal grandmother, who passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet her. But with the information I provided, they said, you know, we want to do some genetic testing. And I met with a genetic counselor. She asked me a series of questions and they did some blood work. And those results came back 2 to 3 weeks later and confirmed that I did have what's called the BRCA1, BRCA1 genetic mutation. And that meant that I had an increased risk for developing breast cancer on the other side or having a reoccurrence. And also, it increased the risk of having other or developing other types of cancers, one being ovarian. And therefore, I really had to make some decisions about my treatment. And I love the way the medical team, they left me in control, but they told me things like, if you were my wife, or if you were my mother, or my daughter, or my sister, this is what I would suggest. And that was really helpful because it allowed me to realize that they saw me as a person, not just as a medical record number. And that was very helpful. And I would encourage people to ask questions like that. If I were your spouse, what would you want me to do? And so I did pursue the most radical treatment. I mean, I was very young. I had a lot of life ahead of me. I had a 7-year-old son who's now 32, but um, he was, oh no, I'm sorry. He was 14 at the time. He was 14 at the time, and he's now 32. And so I did have surgery. I had a double mastectomy. I had reconstructive surgery. And then I also had my ovaries removed because of that genetic mutation as well.
Yes.
As far as the other types of treatment, I had chemotherapy, radiation. Yes, I did lose my hair, but they make really amazing wigs. And I remember my son asking me, Mom, are you going to lose your hair? And I said, yes. And he said, are you going to die? And I said, no, I'm not going to die. And he said, are you scared? And I said, you know what? I'm not. You know, I'm ready to fight. I knew I had to have my army and my village and fight. And so he said, well, if you're not scared, and I'm not scared. And then we just went ahead with life as normal with the addition of some extra appointments and a little
Yes,
downtime. But I
I believe that the support system truly can make the difference in someone's journey. And it actually takes me to my next question, which is how did your support system sustain and uplift you throughout your journey?
Yes, the support system is really critical. I think if a person has any spiritual beliefs, then they really want to tap into that. And you can't do it alone. So even if that army is one other person, you have to have someone that is going to be supportive and kind of walk alongside you, and however that may look. You were instrumental in my journey, you and your family. I'm the type, because I'm such a servant at heart, it's very difficult for me to receive. And what helped me was the way you all served without me knowing you were serving me, by calling me up and saying, Miss Melinda, we made a meal and we have way too much food. We hate to waste it. We're going to bring some over. So that was a great way to serve me without me feeling like I was, the recipient of some sort of charity.
Yes,
And
I remember those days, us going over and, well,
mhm,
walking down the street and dropping off, a plate for you. I think that was something that really resonated with me because I felt like that was my way of helping you even at such a young age. So
right.
it truly can be inspiring almost to support those that we care about and love.
Yes, it really meant a lot. And those things that may seem small in the grand scheme of things, those are the things I remember the most, those little things. And
Okay, Miss Melinda, I have one final question for you. What message of hope would you offer to those currently battling breast cancer, and what guidance would you give to individuals who haven't been keeping up with their annual screenings?
oh, that's a great question. Well, I'll start with a message of hope. Um, First of all, this is not an individual journey. I kind of already alluded to that. You don't have to do it alone. There are, and for those who, there are some people who don't have a lot of family. Some people really keep to themselves and they're very private, and that's okay. There are professional organizations as well. There are support groups. I attended a support group once and it wasn't for me. So that's okay. I was good with the support system I already had. So I didn't need the support group. But for those who maybe don't have family, friend connections, or maybe there's no one local that can assist, those support groups can be really beneficial. And I would say a message of hope is that this is what breast cancer looks like. I am a thriving, surviving, and woman, and I feel healthy. We can use this as an opportunity to say, what can I do to make to better my life, to better my quality of life, and maybe even help someone else along the
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
I served as a navigator. Someone asked me, "Hey, do you mind if someone gives you a call who was recently diagnosed?" That made me feel better because I'm a servant. And so I spoke to other women who were recently diagnosed and kind of help them along their journey. So we have to tap into what makes us feel whole, and that will, and really focusing on the moments instead of, oh, I have so much ahead of me. Helped me. Focusing on the moment. And for women who are not keeping up with their self exam, I would say start with, you can start today, because I remember always seeing commercials or leaflets when I would go to the doctor that said to do your exam around a certain time of the month. And then I would say, okay, I'll wait until then. Well, don't wait. Examine yourself today, because the main thing that women need to know is that we need to know what our bodies feel like. And so we want to examine both breasts to just know what they feel like, because we're not examining for a lump. We're examining for something to be different. And that may feel like a lump. It may feel like a heaviness, the sensation I had. It may look different. Some women have visual changes as well. And so we just want to know what our bodies look and feel like. And that is the start. And then maybe inserting a calendar alert on your phone. I think that many women don't keep up with it because they don't remember to. I don't think it's so much that
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to.
Right.
So I would say if you don't remember, that's easy. We have all this technology now. If it's a post-it note, if you're old school, stick it on your mirror. And if you're into technology, then just set an alert, or tell Alexa to remind you.
Exactly. We have so many resources at our
Right.
fingertips now, and I agree. I think we just need to try to prioritize our health
Right.
and don't be afraid to go to the doctor and find out. It is scary, but again, at the end of the day, we want to be sure that we're being and feeling the best that we can. With that, I just want to say thank you again for joining Conversations with Deja. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.